What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, and I do believe this will be on static radio as well. So we've got
Yeah.
ourselves a swap cast going on, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman, and with us, your host of Static Radio, it's Bob LeMent. Bob, pleasure as
Hel
always. We've been bullshitting offline, and time to get started.
I guess so.
Yeah,
How's it going?
yeah. We'll get rocking and rolling.
You
So,
know, your initials are relaxation term.
oh, you're
Om,
right.
OAM. Om.
Ohm. Yeah, I'm not really the ohm type.
You can sit down and cross your legs and hold your hands up and say Om a few times, and you'll
Yeah.
be all right with the world.
Yeah, I'll do I'll have the
Yeah,
circle
the
in one
pose.
hand
Yeah.
and then just the stump on
Right.
the
Well,
other
yeah.
side.
Other side's got to be a little bit imagined, but
I can imagine it on my
yeah.
phantom hand, right?
But it's yeah, no, it's going great. I mean, the world's topsy turvy as normal, and I think we can't. Can we get any crazier these days? I don't know. That's the question. Always
Yeah.
the question
I
now. It's
mean,
like,
Trump
can it
just
get any worse
free
or
Trump just
weirder? Or,
saved 8 fake women from execution.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was this thing on Twitter where somebody put up like a picture of like 8 AI generated women, and it was
Uh-huh.
like Iran's gonna execute these women, and then Trump's
Oh,
like
okay.
negotiating with nobody about the release of these fake women, and then he gets them released, and he's like doing all these posts about how great he is for getting these fake women,
Oh my
off of
gosh.
execution. I
I
mean,
didn't see that.
you gotta you gotta laugh at stuff like that, you know?
Well, you hit it though, right? So we've crossed over the edge. We're living in the veil, as
Yeah.
it were, because you cannot believe anything that you see or hear anymore because of AI is so pervasive, and people can do such interesting things like that. And so then you got to ask yourself, I mean, how do you vet it?
Mhm.
It's one of those things where it's like, gosh, how do you know what's real and what's not? You have to go assume everything's not real.
Yeah, I'm assuming everything is fake and gay. Like they say
Yeah,
on South Park, everything's fake and gay, you know?
yeah,
Like
everything, and
like,
you can't you can't
this
do it. I mean, what do you unless you're standing there, and even then you have to wonder sometimes.
yeah, I mean, this is at the same time, the Southern Poverty Law Center just got busted paying Nazis so they could bust more Nazis, you know? So, like, that, whole Charlottesville, deal where they were marching with tiki torches and,
Right.
this is the worst thing ever, and Trump said there's very fine people on both sides, like, that whole thing that, like, kind of defined his early presidency in the first term was fake. All
Mhm.
those people were paid by the Southern Poverty Law Center to go and show up and protest as if they were Nazis, and
Yeah.
it was fake.
I'm not surprised.
Me
I
neither.
mean, that's
People
the
have been
world
saying that
today.
for years that it's fake, and
Right.
the elites and all the liberals. Oh no, that can't be true. You guys are conspiracy theorists. Like, well, here you
They
go.
say politics is showbiz for ugly people, so there you go.
Yeah, right.
Well,
So,
that's what it is. They're just putting on a show.
they are, they really are, and
Oh
it's
my
not a great
god.
show, it's one of
No.
these shows that if I was watching it on TV, I'd be like, "Ah, that's not even
Nah.
plausible," right?
Right. I know,
One of
but
the things that, like, bothers me about shows now, I haven't seen one in a while that does this, but, I saw one that did it after COVID. It was like, in like a zombie show or like
mhm.
a virus show where like, oh no, there's this deadly virus that's going around the world. And the first thing that happens is everybody like goes outside and starts like chaos and they're breaking things and stealing
Right.
things and beating people up. It's like, you can't really do that in a show anymore because we had that show in real life and none of that happened. Everybody
Right,
just stayed
exactly.
inside. you know?
Everybody's like,
There
I'm
was
too
no
tired.
chaos, there was no riots. Well, there was riots, but those were later on and for a different reason. But,
Right.
like, it's one of those deals where, like, you can't really do that show anymore because we all know that it didn't happen. People just stayed inside like sheep.
Yeah. They're like, too tough. I don't want to work. I just want to, hang out and, live my life. I think that's true. I was, interestingly enough, you mentioned that. I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking, you know, um, we get bombarded with such negative, uh, images all the time from the media. But the reality is, I can leave my house and go away for as long as I want, and the likelihood of anything happening to it in the interim is very, very slight. And I come home and it's still all here. Everything's still intact. I mean, yes, there are robberies and so forth. And, it kind of depends where you're at in a way. But the reality is that, probably more than 50%, if not even more than that, you can just walk away from everything you own and go do something else for as long as you want and come back. It'll still be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying the same thing during COVID. Like, if you were sitting in your house in the town that I lived in without the TV on for, a year and a half, whatever, come 2022, late 2021, mid 2021, if you just like went outside and had no idea what was going on, if you hadn't watched the news, if you hadn't paid attention to any of the COVID bullshit, like you go out
Mhm.
and you would think that nothing had changed. It was the
Yeah,
same world
no
that you lived
change.
in. You'd be like, "Hey, why is that one guy in the grocery store wearing a mask? That's kind of
Right,
weird."
that's right.
But like that would be it because, here in Idaho, like for the most part, after like the start of 2021, nobody really wore masks.
Yeah,
Businesses didn't really do any of the bullshit. Like the only places that really did it were like the hospitals and the doctor's
right,
offices.
right, yeah.
And honestly, like I had to go to the hospital a bunch during COVID because like I was dealing with this spinal cord stimulator bullshit. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that we don't need to get into. But like
Okay,
they had a hard on for COVID, and they
right.
always had people like sitting in the front as soon as you walked in. They had like a check-in stand where you had to go
Mhm.
and they would fucking
Temperature.
do your temperature with the little gun, and they had their masks and their gloves, and they had to make sure that you had an appointment, and then they would press the button on the elevator for you. You couldn't even press the button on the
Oh,
elevator for
really? You
yourself.
couldn't even
Yeah.
do the
Like they
elevator.
had the
Oh.
elevators blocked off so you couldn't even get upstairs unless you did the check-in with them. And
Hmm.
honestly, I thought that that might not ever go away. I was like, "Man, they might do this forever." Because and like
Well,
the
they got
people
they
that
got
they
tired
got
too.
to do it was like it reminded me of like the Cultural Revolution in China where you had
Mhm.
like these young people who were kind of like, changing the culture and murdering all these old academics that wanted to do thing that what did they had the three olds, old ways, and I don't remember the other
Mhm.
two, but old ways was a big one. And like I looked at these as like that because it was always like young white women that were doing this. It was never like
Right.
older people because they didn't care and they weren't about
Right.
to do that stupid shit and hassle people. But it was always like these young white women and they would hassle you and they ask you as many questions as they could, and like, honestly, I thought it was never gonna go away, so I was kinda surprised when it did, actually.
Yeah. Well, they don't want pay,
Yeah.
and they get tired of paying for all the mask and everything, and so then, yeah, it kind of, dissipates. But the funny thing is, as you said that, the first thing in my head was, well, this is hospitals should be worried about this kind of stuff because I don't know if you look at the statistics, but if you're going to get something that's going to kill you whenever you're kind of sick, you're going to get it at the
Uh-huh.
hospital.
For
You're
sure.
not going to get it. You're not going to get it sitting at home
Yeah. But
because you don't
meanwhile,
come into
like, a little
contact with
paper
all that
mask
stuff.
is probably not gonna save you
Right.
from
Well,
that. Like, it's more about, like, sanitation and cleaning,
right.
making sure the
Washing your,
floors are clean,
yeah.
making sure all your tools are clean, like, making
Right.
sure everybody's wearing clean clothing and stuff like that. Like,
Not, yeah, bringing it in.
there's certain things that a
Isolation.
surgical mask can help you with. Like, I think the efficacy is probably fairly low on them, but, like, most of it, I would think, has to do with, like, bacteria buildups and like sanitation and making sure
Right,
everything's
yeah.
clean.
Well, you're not spitting on people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a big one there because then it kind of keeps the spit from going out everywhere. But
I was actually thinking about this recently. Like, um, why is it that when you go to the emergency room, you sit in the emergency room and wait for them to take you back to a room? Why can't you just wait in your car and they give you a little buzzer like when you go to a
they
taco?
could.
Like, when I go to and buy tacos from the taco truck, they give me a little
Uh-huh.
buzzer. I go and sit in my car and I wait for my
Oh, that's
tacos to be
cool.
done. The thing buzzes and then I go up to the window, I grab them and I go again. Like, why is it that everybody has to be all these sick people, all these injured people, like you said, vulnerable people are all packed
Mhm.
in to a single room when like you could just wait in your car. They give
Yeah.
you a buzzer, you fucking you go inside and then they take you to a room.
I mean, now they just text you if you don't
Yeah.
mind giving them your number. Just
Yeah.
text you.
They've already
I,
got your number because they've got all your information
right, they already
anyways,
yeah they got everything anyway. But yeah, there's no reason. The same thing with jury duty, anything like that. Any kind of municipal stuff that you have to deal with. Getting your license. Why do you wait in a line to get your
DMV. Yeah,
license?
you're right.
Did- uh,
You're sitting in
the
there, it's
technology is
packed,
all
everybody's
there.
angry. You can't really get on your
Yeah,
phone because you don't wanna be rude, like, you can
yeah.
read something, but you can't, like, watch something on YouTube unless you've got your headphones or something like that,
Well,
but yeah, like, why am I sitting in this room, like, with packed, like, cattle when I could just be sitting in my car?
now I'm going to say this. I know you're going to latch right onto this, but it has to do with power.
Oh, for sure.
Because if they let you do that, then you have the power,
Yeah,
and if they don't do that, then they have the power.
yeah,
Because they're waiting on you. If you can, get a buzz and then come in, then they're waiting on you, as opposed for you waiting on them. And it's just a power dynamic, which is really kind of stupid at this point. But
yeah,
that's probably what everything it has to do with is all with the power dynamic, because there's no reason for any of that at this point in time to be taking place because we have all the technology. It is incredibly cheap. Literally, if you've got somebody sitting at a desk that can punch in a number or click a button on the computer that will send a text to the next person, and rather than waiting all day, you could come waltzing in. They'll get you there like 10 minutes ahead of time, so that way, as far as flow goes for them, it keeps the flow going. But yeah, it's all possible. It's all doable.
and I'll
There's,
take this
there's
a step further. Why do we have to go to the DMV at all?
you don't.
Why can't we do it over Zoom?
You could.
You know, the city of San Francisco, when I lived in San Francisco, I had to go to the DMV a couple times. The city
Mhm.
of San Francisco, probably what, 5 to 800,000 people living there, has
Yeah.
one DMV.
Oh my
One.
lord.
People start lining up at the DMV at 4:30 in the morning
I'm
because
sure
that's the
just to get a
only
good
way to get
spot.
in line to get in. The line goes around the block. There's hundreds and hundreds of people in line before they even open. Why do we have to do that at all? Why can't you just have people on Zoom? Like, I could imagine like it would be useful to have like a testing center where you have to go
Mhm.
in and like take your test for your license. Like,
Drive,
I'm
yeah.
sure,
Drive a car.
I went to college and I was able to take 90% of my tests online and they could
Mhm.
tell if you were cheating or not. Like they have cameras on you. You have to like look at the camera around your
Right.
room. I still cheated. Like, let's be real.
Sure.
I cheated as
Everybody
much as I
does.
possibly could on this shit. But they made it very difficult to cheat. And like you could do it for like every why do I have to go in to get a license plate? They're not looking at my car. They're looking at my
No.
paperwork. They're giving you a rubber stamp. They hand you a
Mhm.
license plate. Why can't I do that over Zoom? And you can send me the license plate in the mail or my registration or any of the other bullshit that you have to go there for. Like it seems like this is an antiquated system to where
Oh, it
like that
is.
that just doesn't need to exist. And like if you don't have to support a physical building for this entire thing, you don't have to hire security because there's always security in there because
Right, yeah.
people are on edge in the DMV and like
Sure.
that's a spot where you probably need some security because people are getting a little out of control and a lot of times they're justified in getting a little out of control because the DMVs everybody knows
Sure.
is like one of the worst places to go in this country but like if you don't
Exactly.
have the physical building You don't have to like pay for all of the bullshit that comes along with a physical building. And now you can hire more people to do the job.
Yeah, but yeah, well, we're seeing a rollback now from COVID. Everybody, oh, everybody go home. We don't want you to be sick and getting other people sick.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing well, we're paying for this building, so everybody's got to come back to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And like
but everybody's
for the
not
most
doing it.
part, I'm cool with that. Like I think that like for like especially for private businesses, I think people are more productive in person. But when it comes to the government, like they're not going to be productive no matter how you do it. They have no incentive to be productive. Like
That's
I had
true.
this disability dispute with the government that took like 3.5, 4 years,
Yeah.
and
Oh
it
yeah.
it got to the point where like I went into the physical disability office when they got something screwed up. They thought I was still on workers' comp. I wasn't on
Mhm.
workers' comp anymore. I hadn't been on it for like 2 years. I bring them the paperwork to show that I'm not on it. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, we'll get that taken care of. 6 months later, still waiting.
Still
And
waiting.
I'm talking to somebody on the phone going, well, we never got that paperwork. I'm like, I fucking
Oh,
gave it to that woman. And I almost did the First Amendment audit thing and like recorded while I was in the
right.
building with the disability woman. And I didn't do it because like I was like, it's probably not necessary. This is Idaho. It's a small building. There's like one person working there. Like she's not gonna screw this up. And of course she did.
Oh yeah. Well, after you showed up, then everybody went to lunch or
Yeah,
something.
for sure. 2 hour
That was
lunch.
the end of that work. Gone.
Yeah. They're just
Yeah.
never gonna be productive because they don't have any incentive to. With a private business, like, you wanna be productive at your job so you can get a raise, you can move up. If you can add more value to the company that you're working for, you're gonna be a more valuable employee, you're gonna make more money. But with the government, like, it doesn't really matter?
No, it doesn't
Like,
matter.
you're
Yeah.
gonna make the same amount of money doing the same job, like, it just there's no incentive structure to, like, make you want to do a good job for people.
Then you get moved up when
A
somebody dies or
and a lot of
quits.
times, there's an incentive structure in place with the government to screw over people? Like, my workers' comp caseworker is, like, literally the worst person I have ever met in my life. Like,
Oh
I
my
I
gosh.
just can't stand this woman. They've been paying for my,
She working in the hospital before, punching buttons
maybe
on the elevator?
maybe, I don't know, maybe she was a cop. Anyways, like, they've been paying for my, pain doctor. Like, I go to a pain doctor every couple months. They're the ones that, like, prescribe my pain medications and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You can't really, like, get those medications from a normal doctor, like, you have to go to a pain specialist, and
Right.
all of a sudden, she just decided, I'm not gonna pay for your doctor anymore." It's like, "Well, wait a
Mhm.
minute, I've been going to this doctor for 3 years. Like, what do you mean you're not gonna?" "Well, we don't pay for that. Like, we'll only pay for your primary physician." Like, "Well, you've been
Well,
doing
you
this for
already
years."
paid.
And they won't even give me an explanation for why anything's changed. She doesn't even admit that they've been paying it for 3 years. All she says is, "We won't pay for a secondary doctor. We'll only pay for your primary physician."
Oh my gosh.
And you can't get anything out of anyways, like, I had to beg the pain doctor to be my primary physician, and I was telling somebody the other day that, like, knows about this whole thing. I was like, "I swear to God, every once in a while when she's having a bad day, she just opens up my file and starts scanning it and is like, 'Hmm, how can I fuck over this guy again?'"
You never know. You never know.
I
But
think that she gets a bonus for like, her job is to get people off of workers' comp as soon as possible to save the government money,
uh
and I was a pain in the ass. I turned it from 5 years into 8 years, and,
yeah.
she fucking hates me for it? And I think there's a bonus structure in place for her to screw me over. I
You're
really
hurting my
do.
numbers, man. My
Yeah,
numbers are going down.
yeah, yep,
But you're right. I don't think any of these jobs necessarily need to be anywhere specific. I mean, all this can be taken care of. Everybody talks about, oh, we have to do this, have to do this. We're going to have robots. We're going to all this AI,
yeah,
and we're still dealing with the DMV.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, no, there's no advancements. I mean, maybe there's advancements on the side area or something, but there's certainly no advancements for people in other business, perhaps, but not for people. And I think that's a shame because they're always like, saying, well, people are what matters, but absolutely nobody is putting that first. They're like, wait a minute, people aren't first. Wait, the budget is first, resources are first. Can we make money? That's first.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever said, no, people are first and we'll figure out the other stuff. No, it's the other way around. We got
Mhm.
to get all this stuff. And then if it helps the people, whatever, that just happens.
Yeah. I
And
don't
so, yeah, it's weird that that would be the case given that without the people, none of this works.
Yeah. I'm not really on board with the whole robots are about to take over thing. Like, I think that there's two major hangups that people aren't really looking at, and they're kind of the same hangup, just in different forms. The first one is like energy requirements. Like, we live in
Mhm,
a country where it's impossible to build a power plant. We have these data centers that are coming in and ripping energy straight out of people's hands. And like, I think we're going to get to a point here very quickly where, these power companies that are, government enforced monopolies are going to get mandates to power these data centers rather than people's
mhm.
homes. And we're going to
Sure.
get, energy restrictions put upon us. So, like, that's a major thing. If you're going to, like, imagine if they just dumped 20 million robots into the market today and you
Mhm.
have to power these robots in order to allow them to do whatever job they're gonna do. So, like,
Right,
that's a big hang up is the energy requirements, and also the second hang up, which ties into energy requirements, is portable power. Like, you're not gonna be able to make these things, like, have a battery to where they can operate 8 hours a day or 12 hours a
right.
day or 24 hours a day, which is kind of you know,
What they keep
what the
saying.
promise is these things will be able to work all day, every day, like, you're gonna have so many portable power issues that, like, these things will be able to run for a couple hours, and then they'll have to go plug in. So, if you've got a job that could be done by 3 robots, well, it's actually gonna take 6 or 9 because in
Right,
order to have these things working 24/7, you're gonna have to have a rotation of them to where they're plugged into the or you're gonna have to have, like, an umbilical cord that's
right.
plugged into
that,
these
that
things,
won't
and
work.
like, they're gonna be tripping over the damn thing, and,
Right. I
like,
was going to say
I
that's going to
just
fall.
I'm not there with these things yet, and, like, I always make the analogy to my prosthetic hand. So, like, I've got a couple videos on my, like, Facebook and my X and where, like, I show, like, what my hand can do,
Mhm.
And the thing is pretty cool when it works, and, like, I can put it on, I can pick things up, I can smash a can, like, I can do a couple of different things with it, but what you're not really seeing in that video is this is a produced video. This isn't
Mhm.
just me randomly throughout the day. This is me planning, I'm gonna make this video for this purpose. So,
Right.
I put the hand on, I go through the motions, I do all the training on it to make it, capable of listening to the muscle signal, the electrical signals in my muscles, and I do
Mhm.
the video. But what you don't see is, like, when I take that arm off and put it on the next day, I have to go through the entire thing again. I can't
Oh, you
just
got to
put it
reset.
on and have it do the exact same thing that I did on the video without any, pre-production to it. Like, it
Right.
takes a while to train this thing, and, like, I think that's the same thing with robots. When you see a video of a robot doing a cool thing, it's programmed to do it. It's in an environment that it's familiar with. Oh, look, the robot's doing the dishes. Okay, well, it's spent hours and hours and hours training in that
right.
kitchen to know where everything is. If you take that exact same robot and drop it into somebody else's kitchen, like, the whole
They'll
thing
break
falls
something.
apart. It has to
Right.
learn all of it over again. And I think, like, when you apply that principle to different, like, I did electrical line work and I worked in bars. A bar is gonna be a lot easier to program a robot to work in because
Mhm.
it's in the same space. It's doing kind of the same thing over and over again. It's different liquors, it's different cups, different glasses, like,
Mhm.
different amounts of money, but for the most part, like, you could probably train a robot far easier to work in a bar than to do line work because with line work, you're on a different job site every day. There's a different
Right.
rock over there. All of a sudden this thing's kicking a rock that wasn't there yesterday. There's a hill, it's a different pole, it's a different line. It's like everything is different every day. And I think that it's going to be, you know, we can't even we don't have self-driving cars yet. We have these Waymos that are pretty
Right.
good, but like, it took how many years of Elon talking about his cars are going to drive themselves tomorrow?
Mhm.
Like he's been saying that for 20 years or something like that.
Right,
And
yeah, it's
like
been a
if you
while.
still can't get your car to drive itself on a flat highway where it's dealing with the same thing every day just in kind of a different configuration, like it's going to take way longer to get these robots to be able to do it. So like I'm
Well,
not really worried that robots are going to take over society anytime soon.
and you hit upon the thing, and one of the things with the self-driving cars is insurance.
Mhm.
They're not gonna let robots run around with people willy-nilly because guess what's gonna happen? Somebody's gonna get hurt because it's not gonna move out of the way, or it's gonna hit you, or it's
Yep.
gonna hit somebody, or it's whatever's gonna happen, and then somebody's gotta pay. And the insurance companies aren't gonna let that happen until it's that's why part of the reason why I think self-driving cars aren't further down the road, so to speak, is because there's the insurance industry doesn't want that because basically if you can get it to work, not even 100%, 90%, 80%, what happens to people paying insurance? It all falls off a cliff
Yeah.
because if it's 90 or 80% successful, that's probably better than what the odds are now. And
Mhm.
so therefore, why are you going to pay? You're like, this car never wrecks. I'm only going to pay you 20% of what I used to pay you because I have an 80%, assuredness that it's going to work properly.
Yeah.
And then that whole industry just falls by the wayside, which
Yeah.
it's too big of an industry to allow that to happen. And
Yeah.
so the robot thing is going to be the same situation where, you want a robot in your house? Yeah, no, you're going to have to pay an incredible amount of money, even if it is incredibly safe,
Mhm.
just because they're basically looking for a way to offset any of this technology so they can keep their money.
Yeah. Same thing with cops. Cops make their money road pirating people for
Hmm.
tickets driving 5 over. What happens when you have a car that doesn't speed? It doesn't,
Right? Can't speed.
and you can or you can like up the speed limit significantly because these things are capable of driving without having a wreck. Like what does that do to
Hmm.
your police force? And like
Right.
that's a big union that doesn't want to stop writing tickets.
Right. Well, my thing would be that police shouldn't be doing that, but
No,
unfortunately,
me
that's where
neither.
the money
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, road pirating.
Police should be doing the things again that help people as opposed to hurt people
I
in
watched a
these.
video the other day where a predator catch team caught this pedo, and
Mhm.
one of the guys had a warrant for a speeding ticket, so they took him into jail, but they didn't arrest the pedo.
Because they already had something on file, right?
They were like,
Oh my
"Well, we have to
gosh.
get an investigation and we have to get a detective involved, so we'll just
Yeah.
write a report and we'll kick it up the line, and then the detective will get to it." And it's like,
Right.
probably
Yeah.
won't, but let's take
Sure.
this guy in for not paying his speeding ticket, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. Everybody, oh, we're so overworked. We're so everything. Well, just don't even worry about cars anymore. They're
Yeah.
doing fine. Go over these other things. Oh, well, we can't do that because then we cut into our money. We have to make that money, end of the month where everybody's out giving tickets in order to boost the coffers. So yeah, it's unfortunate that we have uh, a system that is against itself in some ways, right? So you're forced into having to make the money, yet you know by doing that, then you're everything all these other things are falling off the edge of the cliff because they're not getting taken care of because oh no, we have to focus on this. So yeah, I don't know, but the technology is one of those interesting things that seems to take forever, and then all of a sudden it's here.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about the robot things is we don't even know that that's not just all AI generated at this point.
Or somebody like I was telling my buddy this because he's kind of all in on the robot thing coming very
Hmm.
quickly. I'm like, how do we know that these videos that Elon's putting out of these Tesla robots at a party making drinks for people? How do we know that there's not some guy in a room with an Xbox controller?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's Tom
Like,
Cruise
we
from
don't know.
Cocktail.
Yeah, we don't know. You can't just, like, take this guy's word that these things are working autonomously, like, who knows?
Who knows? Exactly. Well, that's the same thing with the drones and all that kind of stuff. They have autonomous drones. Although, that's kind of cool in and of itself, but it could be, yeah. Maybe there's somebody sitting in a simulator somewhere flying these things around. Who
Yeah.
knows?
You
But
know
everybody lies. It's terrible how bad that people want to do the hard sell and get everything going. That what they'll do in order to make that happen
yeah.
is just kind of terrible in a way.
So
But
when
yeah, I mean,
sorry, I cut you off.
oh, it's okay.
Sometimes I think you're done talking because I pay attention to the cat and not your actual voice.
Sorry. Yeah, listen to the voice.
I was gonna say, so like when I got hurt and I started looking into prosthetics, like I really like found out very quickly that prosthetics suck. Like I was kind of under the impression, like most people, that prosthetics are pretty good because you see shit
Right.
on TV, you know?
Mhm.
And like I started looking into like next gen prosthetics, and DARPA made this prosthetic hand they called the MPPL, and it was made by like John Hopkins lab, and
Mhm.
this thing is like serious. Like John Hopkins said it was as advanced as any spacecraft that they'd ever built. So like
Mm.
this is a real deal. It does like all the degrees of freedom. It has articulating fingers, like it does the whole deal. But because of the interface, like the interface for my prosthetic like reads the electrical signals in your muscles. Well,
Mhm.
you can't get enough signals to do everything that a human hand does. Like we
Right.
just don't have the technology to like translate those signals into actual motion. So like my hand just does this, and that. Like that's all it
Mhm.
can really figure out. Like there's no way for it to read like individual finger motion. So they built this hand that is capable of doing it, but in order to like make it work, they had to do a brain computer interface. So they got this woman who was a paraplegic and they put this brain computer interface into her brain and
Mhm.
they hooked her up to this hand. And like the doctor that was on this was a DARPA project. So like the doctor that was on is like a good doctor, clearly. Like anybody who's like head of this project is probably pretty smart, I would
Right.
imagine. And he thought he was doing a project to like help people and to create this next generation of prosthetics. Well, as soon as they got this thing working,
Mhm.
DARPA decided, hey, we're going to put this woman into a flight simulator and see if she can fly an F-35 and start to kill enemies with it.
Of course.
And the doctor was like, "Whoa, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, I didn't sign up for this." And he ended up like quitting the project because he was just like morally outraged that they were going to
Right.
turn this woman into a
Oh,
weapon as
it is
soon as they
DARPA.
possibly could. So yeah, they put her in a flight simulator. They had her flying different drones around.
Mhm.
Like it was all virtual. They didn't like actually have her flying
Right.
anything, but they had her flying an F-35 and drones and all types it was a pretty creepy experiment because like that part of it worked. Like she was able to like visualize herself as a bird and make the
Mhm.
plane fly, which is like really fucking
Oh,
creepy.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, but also very creepy, you know?
Well, give her something. I mean, if you have somebody who's totally
Yeah.
incapacitated almost, that probably was a great day.
Oh yeah. She was able
Don't
to
you
feed
think?
herself some chocolate with the hand and, like,
Yeah.
she hadn't moved in years, so it was, like, a cool thing for her, but, like,
Yeah.
the implications of the technology is very creepy, and a lot of those scientists on that DARPA project ended up working for Elon,
Yeah.
with Neuralink.
Well, yeah. Well, obviously, that's where he'd probably go poach him or whatever,
Yep,
or
all that tech
they
went
give him to
straight to
him because
him. Yep.
they get something on the back end. We
Mhm.
get to use this first or whatever, first right of
Exactly,
for
they're gonna be
refusal.
and, this kind of goes into I didn't really I was thinking about this the other day. If we were on the verge of like a robot takeover, don't you think we would be seeing these things utilized by the military like nonstop?
Oh yeah, yes, you would definitely. Well, they have the pack animal things out there now, and so forth. But
Sure. But like
eh,
we were on the verge of humanoid robots, we would be seeing these things in combat in somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we did went into Venezuela, if
Mhm.
we had robots that were capable of doing this shit, they would have just sent the robots instead of the
Right.
SEALs, you know?
It's interesting you brought that up because that's another piece of technology that apparently has become somewhat exposed. Have you read anything about that or heard
No,
anything about that?
explain.
So the they're getting reports from the Venezuelan guards, right? That when this happened, so I mean, this was a very small. This was like I think it wasn't even 100 people did this extraction of the Venezuelan dictator or whatever, right? So apparently the guards have reported back that they were basically shot with some type.
I
They
did
didn't
hear
even know
this.
what was going
I
on.
did hear this. It was like some direct
They
energy weapon
basically
or
had so
something.
much pain in their head that
Yeah.
they all were incapacitated, and then they also had a huge. All of them went from that into euphoria, and so it was like basically they were just standing around doing their bit, and all they're either in agonizing pain or euphoria, all uncontrollably. Nobody shot him with a dart. Nobody gave him anything. Nobody put it in their food. You know what I mean? And then all these people descend and do everything they want to do as these people are incapacitated and take away the guy and then take off. And so apparently uh it's like Havana syndrome. You've heard of Havana
Yep,
syndrome
I
where they
have.
use the
That's
microwave.
exactly what I was
They use
thinking
the
about.
microwave
Yep.
technology where basically they can either make you feel horrible or they can make you feel so good that you think you're seeing God.
Yeah. You wake up and your president's gone and you got a pants full of jizz.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. So apparently that they utilize some of this technology during that, and that's what they're finding out from the people who weren't removed or whatever,
Yeah.
who were just on the ground. And it's like, and they're just saying like we were just doing our thing, and then all of a sudden this all happened, and we had no clue out of nowhere. It's like minding your own business, and the next thing you know, all this is happening, and you don't know what's happening, and then it's all over with, and you're just laying there in a heap. And it's just amazing. I mean, it's just incredibly wild to think that um, that exists, which
Yeah.
we've heard about it for a long time, but that they used it, that they actually used it, which a lot of times, you know, I mean, we're at war with Iran right now. This does not need it just from the Venezuela thing. What's happening right now does not need to be continuing.
Mm-mm.
It could be already be done and we're moved on to the next thing because they literally pluck this guy from one of the more heavily armed places in the world. And you're telling me that we have to suffer through this Iran stuff for months? That tells me that none of this all of this is planned and none of this has to really take place because there's all this stuff in place to make this happen in an instant essentially. We don't need to go. All they need to do have a little bit of intelligence on whoever the leader, the Ayatollah is right now in Iran, and they could just go and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they don't even need the intelligence.
Mhm.
Trust me, if they just anybody with any rank, if they just started plucking people out of Iran, uh, randomly, who had any kind of importance, the whole thing would collapse. Okay, forget about it. You just got, this guy, you just got this guy, you just got
Yeah.
this guy. Eventually you're going to get me, who's the boss or whatever, and they would quit. That would be the end of it. And you don't even have to go through all this. We're going through it's a big show. It's such a big
Yeah.
show.
I think it speaks
Um
to the objective of the mission, right? Like
mhm.
Venezuela, the objective was we're going to get rid of this guy at the top and we're going to turn this country into a gas station. In order to
Right,
have a
right.
gas station, we want to stabilize it. We don't want chaos. Like we want
Right,
to be able to basically come in with a gun and say, this is our oil now. And you're going to kind
right.
of, facilitate this oil being used in America. What a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure you probably know this, but like the oil like people are saying a lot about this. Like, "Oh, who cares about the oil in Iran? We're a net exporter of oil. We have
Mhm.
plenty of oil." Well, all the oil that we drill for in the United States, we can't refine here. We don't have the refineries for the type of oil that we have in this country. So we have to export all the oil that we drill, and we import oil from elsewhere to refine
Mhm.
here and turn into gasoline. So, like, you need oil from an outside source to have, like, there's 2 different kinds of oil. There's like a sour crude and a sweet crude. I think
Mhm.
we refine sweet crude and we drill
Right.
for sour crude. Well, Venezuela has all the oil that we need to refine. So, like, that's
Mhm.
a good gas station for us. It's close, it's
Right.
easy shipping. We can send Chevron and Shell in to get these wells online, and bada bang, bada boom, we've got oil ripping through our nation. And I don't
Mhm.
know if it even has to go through the Panama Canal. Like, it can just, go wherever. Anyways,
Right. Who knows?
I think the objective in Iran is completely different. Like, what
Mhm.
does Israel really want from Iran? They want chaos. They want
Mhm.
destruction. They want this entire country to fall so they can have influence within the region. And I think
Right.
that that's a completely different objective than, like, it was with Iran. And, like, I
Right.
totally agree with you. And it's just the implications of that tech that they used in Venezuela is creepy. Are they
It
using
is
it on
creepy.
us? Like,
Yes.
what are
I
these
guarantee you.
cell towers that are all over the place? What do they have a separate little box on them that's emitting
Mhm.
this frequency at a lower level to make people docile? What's coming out of your TV screen?
Right.
What is coming out of your YouTube screen if you're looking on a tablet or a phone? Like, are they capable of, like, using this technology on a smaller level to make people more docile, and all they have to do is turn it
I
up, and hey, all of a sudden you're taking a shot at the president, or, like.
Right. I'd say that, not to sound, like a nutter, as they would say overseas in Britain, right? He's a nutter. But yes, I think all of it, because the government, if we have not learned anything, everyone should know that the government has no qualms with using its own constituents as guinea pigs.
Mhm.
They have done it again and again and again and again and again. And slowly, these things leak out over time. The big one that everybody talks about most of the time is the Tuskegee
Yep.
Institute, right?
But they've
Because
done, like, they put, like, nuclear material over the
yeah,
entire city of San Francisco just to see
yes,
what happened.
just to see what happens. Yeah, and they've done the same thing with chemical weapons,
MK
biological
Ultra.
weapons, everything. So yes, so the answer is, anytime they get into this technology, I'm sure they test it out on somebody somewhere, and if it is useful, or someone deems it useful, they will use it, and they use it on people probably all the time. It's just, they have to be sparing, right? Because you can't do anything that is going to upset the balance of everything, and so they don't. But it is. I mean, it's constantly used, and who knows? I mean, every television, I think, at this point has a microphone on
Mhm.
it,
For sure.
and a lot of them have cameras, and they're not even. You don't even know where they don't need a camera. They're not telling you it has a camera, because if you look at your phone, that element that they use for a camera, they can make it smaller than that,
Mhm.
right? They make it the size it is because of selling it as a phone, and they can make it smaller. They can make it, indetectable, and they're everywhere now, because I want a flat screen, yeah. So now you buy a new flat screen. Guess what? It's got a camera and a microphone. It's watching you. It's watching what you are watching.
1984.
Yeah, and you if you have an internet connection, you have a smart television. It's telling someone somewhere what you're watching, how much you're watching. Especially now that with the streaming services, you literally can't watch anything without them knowing what you watched.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if the camera works when the TV isn't on,
Oh no, definitely. Well,
you know?
that's they call it vampire devices or whatever. Everything draws power 24/7 that you've got plugged in. That's a new appliance at this point.
Yep.
There's nothing that probably isn't. So the only thing you can do is unplug it. Now the question is Is there a battery?
Yeah. Yeah. And how
Because
long
they
does
could
it
have a
last?
battery, and then when you plug your TV in, you're charging the battery that powers these surveillance pieces. And I know that everybody, some people are going to listen to it and like, you are crazy.
I don't think so.
No, you you have to be a realist because all you have to do, and this is a psychology point. Past behavior predicts future behavior,
Hmm.
and we have the past behavior. So it's not going to change. They're not going to
Yeah.
have a change. Oh, we don't. We just want people to live and let live.
Yeah.
No, they're all like, what are they doing? We need to know what they're
Yeah.
doing.
So, dude, I've got a tenant right now that is like he's an ex-soldier and he's a government contractor, whatever that
Mhm.
means, right? And
Yeah,
he runs like security for train stations essentially. So like we have industrial trains that come through my area all the time, and a lot of these trains have some very dangerous things on them that can be
sure.
used for nefarious processes, like different chemicals and stuff like that. So he was telling me the other day, he was like, "Yeah, man, I had to sit on top of a grain silo with a sniper rifle all day to make sure that this, train delivery was safe." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And he's like, "Yeah, well, at least there was a farmer's market right below me, so I got to look at that." And I'm like, "What the fuck, man?" Like our government is so like, you know, non-concerned with our citizens that you're running ops in the middle of a day with like extremely dangerous
That's the
chemicals
best.
right by a fucking farmer's market. Like you couldn't do this at night. You couldn't have the
That
shit delivered at night when there's nobody around. You have to deliver it during the day when there's a fucking farmer's market full of, families and children and like, oh my God,
But that's
it's
the best
disgusting,
cover because
right?
they don't think anything is going to happen.
Ugh.
But I mean, there's
That stuff
you know
drives me nuts.
they truck nuclear waste across the nation on the
Yeah,
highway system, and if it got in an accident and all broke open and spilled all over the place, then they'd have a situation. But there's no what are they gonna? You know what I mean? It's like, that's all right. That's what we're doing. You know, if you get into the fact that we potentially, as some people say, we have a tunnel system all
yeah,
underneath the United States. Why
I
can't you
believe
just do
that
it
too.
there?
You know, people don't really know this either, but like this is real. This is not me being a conspiracy theorist or being a wacko that just hates the government. Like our entire highway system was
Hmm.
designed around, so like when you drive under a bridge on the highway on like the
Hmm.
freeway, the trucks that drive under, they have like they all have the same amount of clearance underneath the bridge. You go, "Well, that's weird. Why is it that the bridges are higher than they need to be in order to clear these trucks?" Well, those bridges weren't designed for shipping
No,
containers to go underneath
no,
them. They were designed for nuclear weapons. They were
yeah.
designed in the 50s and 60s when we still had to cart nuclear weapons around the country. And
Hmm.
if Russia or whoever was going to invade the country, you have to have these weapons platforms transferred around. So actually, our highway system is designed for nuclear missiles. The actual asphalt is poured thicker in our country than any other
Hmm.
country in the world. It's thicker than it needs to be because it's designed for military equipment, not
Yeah,
for the cars and semis that drive over it on a daily
no,
basis. So like
and for
what's
planes.
if you just take the next logical step to that, okay, we don't really have to do that anymore. We have airplanes, we have other things. Well, what if the airplanes go down? You still have to transfer them. Tunnels, tunnels
Right,
and
tunnels.
trains,
Hmm.
like maybe it's normal trains, maybe it's these maglev things like they've got over in
Hmm.
Japan that do 200 miles an hour. Like I
Hmm.
fully believe that there's some serious infrastructure underneath our feet every
Oh
day.
yeah, there's a network of things, and now I don't know. I cannot confirm or anything. I do not work here or anything, but I don't. There's outside of St. Louis. There's a Air Force base, and I knew somebody who was working there as a corporate person, and he's like, most of the Air Force base, all the good stuff's underground. Anything that's on the surface is just hangars and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's like, any technology or anything is all underground.
It's like a magician. Look at the hand.
Yeah, exactly. Now, some people say that basically all these points are connected with tunnels to run things, back and forth to all these different bases, and that's part of why you're out west, why the terminal in Denver has like several levels
Yep.
underground,
Yep.
and it's not for baggage, is what they said, but it's not for baggage. Yeah. So and there's a bunch of those. So any new airport or whatever that gets built, it seems like that's of any substance, right? Any large airport gets all this. Their budget for those things are like billions of dollars because they're building more than an airport. They're building an airport on top of something else,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they're all interconnected. And you can go, supposedly, you can go across the United States underground at a high speed, hundreds of miles an hour on these things. That's what they say.
Yeah.
But they
I
don't take
believe
they
it.
don't take the waste that way.
No. No. And you
That
got to
just goes on
wonder,
a
like,
truck.
you got to wonder what they're doing under there, you know? And like it's kind of, if you're looking at like being a responsible government, like that is something that you kind of should do in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I always warn people about is like EMPs, you know.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're familiar with the Carrington event, which was this big EMP, and I don't remember when it was, like the late 1800s or something like that. That it fried a bunch of our like telegraph things where they
Mhm.
were using Morse code to like send rudimentary messages before the power, before our grid was put up. But like there's, you know, I think that if we found an asteroid that was going to hit Earth at this point, I think we could get the technology together to move it. You know, we
Oh,
had that
yeah.
mission a while back where they crashed a satellite into an asteroid and showed that they moved it a little bit. Like I think that there's probably technology in place to where if we spotted a doomsday asteroid far enough away, like we would be able to move it. What we
Oh,
can't
yeah.
what we can't do is like predict when we're going to get hit with a massive EMP from a solar flare, you know?
Right.
And our entire grid is so fragile, it is
Mhm.
so fucking fragile. And like we have, so like when I was working in North Dakota, we had this compressor station that like you had an underground gas line that was like transferring natural gas from one place to another. And it had to have this big massive, basically a massive air compressor built. Like it was a whole, building. Like this thing was huge. And all it does is compress the line and like move the gas along. And the
Mhm.
transformers that we had to put into place with these things required cranes. They had to be moved, on a train. So like they build all of these transformers in China. They
Mhm.
transfer them over here on big ships. They get moved by massive oversized trucks. They get put on trains. They get moved again by massive oversized trucks, and then they get set with trains. And these are at every transmission substation around the country. You've
Mhm.
got these big, massive step up, step down transformers that are at transmission stations, sub transmission, and then they go down to your distribution stations. And like, if we run out of those, if we get hit by a solar flare and you don't have the ability to build new ones and transfer them around the country, we are completely fucked.
Right.
Like the DoD has ran studies on this that shows like if you don't get the power up and running within like a couple of weeks, you're completely fucked and we're living in Mad Max land. So like
Right, right,
if I'm a responsible government, I have enough of those things and enough equipment to set those things underground, shielded from something like that. But
right.
I'm not convinced that the government does. I think that they build
Well,
themselves bunkers so they can
right,
survive something like that. But I'm not fully convinced that they have enough of these things to like have a backup grid up and running within a couple weeks. I really don't know. And it depends on like how bad the solar flare is. If it's bad
mhm,
enough to knock out small electronic devices like cell phones and radios, you're really
mhm,
fucked because like how are you going to coordinate the workers to get these things running again? And if you're living in Mad Max, like if I'm a lineman and I need to go into work, well, am I going to leave my family alone with neighbors
right.
that I don't trust up the street with guns, and people are hungry and they're out of water, and like I don't know that I'm leaving to go to work to get it back running again.
Right. Now, and who knows? I mean, I would say that the military base, because one
That'd
is
be a
none
good
and
job
two
for
is
robots.
one. Yeah, that's true. They get fried though. You
Not
know,
if they're
they
underground,
probably have,
hopefully, right?
yeah. They probably have them for all the military bases and everything, but yeah, for the average people, no, and then that becomes the have and have-nots, but we've already kinda got that going on anyway.
Mhm,
The question becomes then, the other question becomes, is it easier for us to defend to have our own people fighting us because these things happen, so then that way other countries and nations won't come to try to take what we have
mhm.
because they have to fight through the people who are already fighting.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
imagine if we're facing the sun when that EMP hits and China's on the complete other side of
right.
the world and their grid goes, with minor damage or even
Right.
undamaged, like, now you've got a serious power vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. And so then it's like, because you're right, because it gets back to the Iran thing is sometimes chaos is your best friend.
Uh-huh.
And so you want to have all that chaos because in chaos, then you can do things that you can't do outside of chaos.
Yeah, you have justified force.
Or you can just do random things that no one will ever know about
Mhm, for
because
sure.
there's so much chaos that you
Yeah.
can't there's no way that anyone would ever be paying attention because they're all too worried about their own situations
Maybe that's the
to
time to
do
bust out
anything.
the UFOs, right?
Exactly. Well, that gets to you talked about that. That's like the Jersey drones, right?
Yeah.
So all the
Which
drones
we
and
still have no idea what happened with that.
right. Well, but and these things were, reports are they're like big as an SUV.
Yeah,
And I've never seen a drone the size of an SUV myself.
me neither.
I mean, you see the sheriff's drones that catch speeders and whatever that have basically taken the place of Cessnas and whatnot, and they're probably, they're not heavy, but they're as big as the hood of your car,
Mhm.
right? Maybe a little bit bigger, and can go up for a couple of hours and surveil, and then point
Dude,
out
my
speeders to
buddy
the
does,
cops.
fire investigations. So, like,
Hmm.
he's an arson investigator, basically. So he'll go out to these big, fires in California, and he has drones that have, like, LiDAR and radar
Hmm.
and all kinds of crazy shit on them. And that's just a normal citizen is buying these
Right.
things.
Yeah. So yeah, what have we got?
What do we got?
Beyond
What
that,
does the
what's the
military got,
military?
you know?
Exactly.
What does the Air Force have? What does the Space Force have?
The Space Force.
What are these? You know, I, most people don't know this either. And like, I don't know if you know this or not, but like the Hubble Space Telescope is a weird one because
Mhm.
the Hubble Space Telescope is a spy satellite turned the opposite direction.
Right.
And
Exactly.
like
They're
we're
watching
able
for
to
something
look
to come in.
at galaxies,
Mhm.
that are fucking trillions of light years away or whatever it is. Not that I don't know how many it is, but like we're able to look at things in the distant universe with that satellite. So like they're
Mhm.
able to look at the fucking hairs on top of your head with what
Right.
they've got. And
Exactly.
this is a satellite that was built in the 80s. Imagine what they have
Right.
now, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and that the Hubble is looking out into space, watching for something coming in our direction. I mean, it is scientific, and they do scientific things with it, but
But it's a repurposed spy satellite.
right, for a fact that the military gets time, and they use that time accordingly, or they have another one, or another two, or another three of them that are up there doing the other work. Because that's the way things happen. There's never anything that's not has a military application on the high end of technology.
Yeah, for sure. It all starts with the military and like, dude, imagine like that DARPA project that I was talking about earlier with that hand, that was done
Mhm.
in 2012.
Yeah.
So imagine what they're doing today with like super soldiers and stuff like that. Like we have
It's
no idea the type
crazy.
of fucking Captain America projects that they've got going on within the military where they're turning people into cyborgs and who knows what they're up to.
Right.
Sometimes I watch sci-fi shows and I go, "Ah, that's not possible." And then you look at something and go, "Wow, I could freaking apply this to a bunch of different things within current technology that we have today."
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
if my buddy has access to these drones that have crazy lidar and radar and infrared cameras and all kinds of crazy shit on them, like the stuff that they've got in the military must just be generations beyond,
Yes. It's got to be. We were always.
generations beyond. Like how crazy is this? Like I don't remember what it was. Oh, it was when they went and found that pilot, supposedly, because, who knows if that
Right.
pilot was real or not. But they had something that was capable of detecting his heartbeat from
Right.
miles away.
Yeah.
I was reading a book, I was reading The Expanse,
Mhm.
like series of novels, and in that book, like they had this woman who was in a suit of power armor and she was kind of just laying waste to a space station full of people, and the
Mhm.
way she was able to find these hiding people was through their heartbeat with a
Mhm.
sensor in the suit. And I remember thinking, oh, that's pretty creepy and pretty interesting. And then days later that was released. It was like, holy shit, like this book takes place 500 years in the future, but we've
Right.
already got it now.
Right. That's the wild thing. That's why it always gets me because you have people. Artemis 2, right, went up.
Yeah, okay.
Supposedly going to the
Let's
moon,
talk Artemis 2. Continue, please.
and you have people are like, oh, we haven't been to the moon so long, and now Artemis 2 is going to go to the moon. So then, if you're on the side of the, we've never been to the moon, and this is just a new fake moon mission. I'm like, you're on that side.
I don't think we ever went to the moon.
See, but the interesting thing is, you're the heartbeat thing. You're on 100%,
Yeah.
right?
I don't
But
know. I don't
the
know
moon
because
thing, you're
like I
not
don't even know
on.
if that pilot was real.
Okay. Well, let's just pick anything we've talked about that you're in 100% on, like underground tunnels everywhere,
Yeah.
let's say, but you're not on the moon thing.
I
See,
I
I've
think it's
just,
possible that we went this time. I think the Artemis, like, I don't know, there's a lot of weird videos with these
I
astronauts
know
that are
you've been watching
fucking
with the
weird,
bubbles and all that
like
kind of stuff.
there's all kinds of weirdness to it. So like I'm not completely before the astronauts got back, I was on board with they went to the moon, and then after
Mhm.
the astronauts got here, I'm kinda like, I don't know, maybe 75% they went because there's a lot of weird those astronauts are weird. The woman is walking fine and talking fine, her earpiece goes out at one point in one of the things,
Uh,
and she doesn't know what to say, so she's off script, and, like, that's weird, and then days
right.
later, they show her in physical therapy, like, not being able to walk. It's like, well, she was walking fine while she
Right.
was on stage, so, like, I don't know about this one, like, I'm a little bit more on the side that they went than they didn't go, but it's so weird, but as far as, like, the Apollo missions, I think Kubrick did it.
Now, I'm not saying that maybe didn't happen. Like, you have your, so you do something simultaneous where you send people to their death, and then you have the people who are going to be on camera and doing all the press, right?
Mhm.
It could have been something like that. But I think the reason we haven't been to the moon so long is because we're on the moon. We've been there the
Dude,
whole time.
I agree
And
with that too. Like, I
yeah,
think that it's definitely possible that we have bases on the backside of the moon.
yeah.
But
And
I
so
also think that
therefore,
the Apollo missions were fake.
but so therefore, it's like basically, we've got more technology than we're letting on, and this Artemis
It's
2 is just
again
kind of
the
a novel
magician,
thing.
look at the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Look
The
at
Artemis 2
Apollo,
thing.
look at Neil Armstrong, look at Buzz
Right.
Aldrin punch this guy in the
Wag
face.
the dog.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It because that makes more sense. The reason we haven't been back is because we've been there the whole
Yeah,
time,
no,
because
I'm
that's
on
what
board
you
with
would
that.
do with a military thing. You'd be like, we can't be sending these guys up there willy-nilly when we're trying to build a moon base, you know what I mean? Because we can't stop them, from showing something accidentally. It becomes a logistical
Mhm.
nightmare to not give away, to not show your hand.
Yeah, and,
And
like,
so the
who
best way
knows
not to
what's
show your hand is
on the
don't do it.
moon? If, like, there's alien structures, if
Hmm.
there's other countries that have bases up there. Yeah, like, how do you brief these pilots to be like, "Hey, when you go around the backside on orbit, just turn off all your cameras and don't pay attention to
Right,
anything that you see.
exactly,
Those aren't
exactly.
lights down there. That's just a an
Yeah, don't worry
electrical
about
discharge or
it.
something like that." Yeah, it gets weird, right?
Yeah, and so who knows if maybe this is all part of the story, to have this, and so they maybe Artemis 2 didn't go to the moon, but somebody has been going to the moon the whole time doing other things that aren't public facing, and so yeah, I mean that to me it doesn't. There's a point where you gonna have to buy in to all of it, or have to pull yourself out of all of it because you're almost on the edge of it. Has to be true because all this other stuff is true,
Yeah.
and so it gets to be weird like that. But that's my thought is because if you were a military person and we went, let's say we were trying to go to the moon, we didn't even make it to the moon. At that point in time when we're talking about it, the first inclination is we got to get a goddamn missile on the moon
Yeah.
and point it down at our enemies because you don't have to build a platform.
Or
You just got to get it up there.
like rods from God.
Right. Exactly. It's Zeus throwing
Because all
lightning
you gotta
bolts.
do up there is you just build, like, have you ever been to an amusement park that have those roller coasters that are magnetically propelled and,
Hmm.
like, they
Yeah.
there's one in Southern California called Superman, and basically you
Right.
sit in this thing and it just goes up and back really fast, and that's a
Hmm.
magnetic system where you've got an electromagnet that's turned off, you turn it on, and then boom, it just fires this thing down a
Hmm.
track and then up, and you go back. That's all you need on the moon to get rid
Yeah.
of mass because there's so little gravity, there's no atmosphere at all. So, like, you
Hmm.
have one of these roller coasters up there that has a rod from God on it, and you just launch it up into
Launch it.
orbit, and it's
That's
got
it.
fins for the atmosphere. It's got a little bit of a missile on the back to kind of redirect it and everything. And now you've got
Hmm.
this missile that can destroy everything with no
Hmm.
nuclear fallout.
Right. It just, yeah. I mean, and that makes the most sense to me because then because that's if you take that mindset, everything has a military application. When they do the Apollo, they're like, okay, we'll do this whole thing, but guess what? We're flipping the switch in 1973, I think it was,
Mhm.
and nobody else gets to go because it's all in our control
Yeah,
now.
and they could be the base if they've got bases up there, they could be in craters that don't get
Yeah,
any light to them. Like,
or
they've got
underground.
craters down there that get no light whatsoever, so you build this, base down deep into a crater, and when Artemis comes whipping around, you just turn the lights off for a few minutes.
Yeah, it's all the possibilities are endless at that point. And I think there's been a few peeks behind the curtain. Gary McKinnon was one of them when he did his hacking of databases back in the 90s and finding things. And they still are trying. I don't know if they still are, but they were trying to get him, you know, to come to the United States, extradited out of Britain and put him in jail.
Huh, I'm not
And here
familiar
he
with
is.
Gary McKinnon.
Oh, you know? Okay,
No.
he's basically like an autistic programmer in the 90s on modems who was interested in UFOs, and so he started doing a war games thing where he just started jumping onto servers, any server he could find via modem, and seeing what was there because none of them were protected because nobody really knew about stuff back
Oh,
then.
that makes sense,
And
it was so early.
he found pictures, he found text, he found a list of non-terrestrial officers
Ooh,
from the Navy,
okay, I remember hearing about this now, I just
and
didn't know
and
the
so
name.
he got caught though. He was on a server downloading data. In the middle of downloading stuff, it got cut off, and then the next thing you know, guess what? Somebody's at his door, and they're trying to extradite him and put him in jail over here in the United States. Extradite him from Britain. Britain would not let him be extradited,
Well, that's good.
and so he's still in Britain, but he literally, I think his life is ruined. He can't really do anything. The British are now keeping him under their thumb. He's been able to talk about it from time to time, but he's a total nutter because he's kind of a weird dude anyway. And he's never changed his story. He's never added to it. He doesn't seem to be on the circuit, as it were, like some other folks, uh, selling his wares and whatnot as
Mhm.
much. And yeah, and so, but this is back in the 90s.
Wow.
This is over 30 years ago.
So
Yeah.
pivoting
And
to
it was the
somebody
Navy,
else
specifically
from
the Navy, which is interesting because the Navy have seemed to find all these UFOs flying around
okay,
their area.
so I was watching an interview recently. It was Bob Lazar on this guy Jesse Michaels
Right.
channel, who does a great show called American Alchemy. It's a much better interview than the one that he did with Joe Rogan recently. I
Mhm.
haven't watched all of it. I just started it yesterday. It's like a 3.5 hour interview that takes place over 3 days. So I'm like halfway into it. But, anyways, he's another guy that hasn't
Yeah.
changed his story
Hasn't
for
changed
the
the story.
most
That's
part
90s
since
as
the
well. Yeah.
90s. And
It's
like
early 90s.
early
Yeah.
90s. And the crazy thing was is they were saying on the interview that like everybody thinks that the Air Force has control of these, but it's actually the Navy who has
Navy, yeah.
control of these
Mhm.
reproduction UFOs or repurposed UFOs, whatever you want to call them, you know?
Mhm.
And like I don't know about Bob Lazar. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not. But what I do know is I think that he is far more believable than people like Lou Elizondo and
Yeah.
David Grush and
Yeah.
Eric
And
Davis and all of these quote whistleblowers that are talking about UFOs. Like, I don't trust them at all. Like, I think
no,
that there's a very good chance that these guys are ops. You know,
they're all
like Lou
ops. Yeah.
Elizondo, that ATIP or whatever he ran for the Pentagon wasn't
Mhm.
even a real program. It was basically a UFO club that he started within the Pentagon and he called it
Right.
something. And now everybody considers it to be this real program. And like, I don't believe these guys at all. Like I
Mm-mm.
take everything they say with a grain of salt because you just don't know. Like they're still in with the government. Like they're
Right.
not pariahs. They're not being threatened with jail or anything like that. They're still
Right.
checking with people to see what they can and can't say. So like
Mhm.
I don't buy that. But Bob Lazar is an interesting one because to
Ash
me,
it
he
this is
sounds believable.
Yeah. The weird thing is always look at the person and see where their money is coming from.
Yeah,
If
and
Lou
he's not
Elizondo
making
is
a
still
ton of
getting
money.
Lou Elizondo's getting his money still from the government in a
Mhm.
pension, right? Which he is, I'm pretty sure. Then that means that he still is beholden to the government
And he just
because
looks like a spook.
well, he was that's what he
Yeah,
was before. He was counterintelligence.
yeah. And
That's what
same
his
with
job
Grush.
was.
Like he was a spook too,
Yeah.
you know.
And
What's that?
Lazar lost everything.
Yeah.
The guy basically whenever this came out.
Never wrote a book, didn't
Right.
take any money from the documentaries that
Mm-mm.
were produced about him, barely
Nope.
does any interviews.
Mhm. And his life was turned upside down. I
Yeah,
mean, he lost everything, during that time period. And he even says, I think in an older interview, I haven't seen the one you're talking
it's
about,
good. You should
but
check
the
it
reason
out.
he came out was because he was worried about getting killed, and he figured if he talked, it would be harder to kill him because then, uh, the people would wonder what happened. And so that's why he talked, and that's why he continues to talk apparently, is because that he feels it gives him a certain amount of safety. Although, I don't want to get into this subject yet, and maybe we should save it for next time because I have
Sure.
to run here. But all these scientists are disappearing and
Yeah,
dying, and that we should leave that as our hanging
absolutely.
point for the next one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Bob, as always, it's a pleasure talking with you, and we'll do this again.
We will,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good
Well,
night.